Hello everybody, thank you for tuning in and we hope that you're well and keeping safe. For those of you who don't know us, the Crested Tit Collective is a group of experimental poets originating from the Poetic Practice programme at Royal Holloway, University of London. This is our second isolation event and we're very excited to be invited to perform at Winchester Fest and to be part of this ongoing community project. It's been really awesome to see everything unfolding so far. Before we begin, I'd like to announce an open call for submissions to our upcoming eco-poetic project. Rewilding will be our second anthology of work, and we're looking to open the project up to a wider community of writers and artists. The theme of the text is ecology. We're looking for submissions which are innovative, disruptive, and say something new. Submissions do not have to be limited by form, so we're open to submissions of poetry, art, essays, objects, ephemera, performance documentation, and anything that can be incorporated into print. Submissions need to be sent to rewildingpoetry@gmail.com and the deadline is the 31st of July, 2020. I'd also like to use this time to quickly condemn the British government and ask for Dominic Cummings to be sacked. And additionally, I'd like to say that the CTC, as both a collective and a community, stand in solidarity with protesters in Minnesota and demand justice for George Floyd. We ask that anybody in the position to do so donate to the Minnesota Freedom Fund. I'd first like to introduce Sophie. Sophie Shepherd is a poet and performer originally from Weston-super-Mare, who has just finished her MA in Poetic Practice at Royal Holloway. Last year, Sophie performed on the Minimat acoustic stage at Festival 8 in Lincoln, supported by Holly McNish in York for her Plum book tour, and performed alongside Warda Yassin at the Off the Shelf Literary Festival in Sheffield. She has recently competed in the Roundhouse Poetry Slam, and her poems have featured in Say Out's most recent anthology and the New River Press yearbook. Sophie has yet to define exactly what her writing explores, but she currently likes to write about the less obvious societal and political intricacies of the everyday. Welcome, Sophie.
Yay. Thank you, Briony, for your beautiful introduction and reading the bio. I mean, that bio is probably like 6 months old now, but I mean, everything still stands. I still very much don't know what I'm actually writing about. So I think I'm going to do two poems. And the first poem is one that I wrote recently. I think it's come from being in lockdown. It's kind of about how we're living in crazy times and yeah, how everything feels far away. And it's called Everything is My Long Distance Lover. I am getting to know your nose very well, chin grazer, bedroom ceiling, an upside down corridor left on the desk, bedtime. This poem was originally reserved for my long distance lover, but now everything is my long distance lover. My neighbour's pan and all the things it has to say. I want to ask the milk if it's okay. And when you can't have something, you want it more. I always thought Spring Watch was an invasion of privacy, but now I really want to watch baby birds being born and everything in between. Have you seen the queue outside? No, I don't have eyes and I'm just a box of cereal, said the cereal. I shouldn't even really be talking to you. Yeah, sorry. Anyway, thank you for reaching out. I didn't. You brought me into this when it has nothing to do with me. So that was my crazy poem about lockdown, where I talk to a box of cereal, because I think that's exactly what this time is all about. And my second and last poem is a poem that I've written about Weston-super-Mare. As Briony said when she read out the bio, I'm originally from Weston-super-Mare, and Weston-super-Mare is where I am today. I've really done a full circle and I'm right back where I've started. But this is a poem about being supportive of a town that I never really wanted to be supportive of. And it goes like this. Calling Weston a shitty town is like collapsing onto the floor of the supermarket and refusing to move whilst your mother claws at your arm. It is embarrassing and annoying, and everyone is looking at you for all the wrong reasons. It's like winning an award, but at the world's worst awards ceremony, which then collapses into a burial and then folds itself into nothing. Like sitting in a room with all of the lights off, refusing to look for the light around the edge of the door frame. Yes, Marks and Spencer's has gone. But that cannot be treated as the death of us. Only a tiny murmur in a heartbeat amongst heartbeats beating on, and calling Weston a shitty town is like the worst kind of dinner conversation ever. No one can reply, no one can expand on the matter, and it's just fucking awkward now because everyone lives here. And now we just have to sit here thinking about it. Next time, let's just talk about the fucking weather. And as for the fucking weather, calling Weston a shitty town can only be referred to as such if it is labelled shitty in the same way that we label the clouds in front of the sun or the passing rain shitty. Shitty in the knowledge that we know it is changeable and can be beautiful and is nice and is flaunted in the summer. You can call Weston a shitty town, but it will not help you. It will not help you see it as the thriving metropolitan cultural zone you so obviously want it to be. Yes, new paving stones can soften its wear, but Weston can only answer to what we call it. So yes, that is my nice poem about Weston. And if you want to see any more of my poems, then I'm on Instagram at SoFherPoems, and also make sure to follow CTC. I did that right, didn't CTC Poetry, because lots of cool stuff is happening, especially with the anthology that Briony was talking about. So yes, I guess I hand back to Briony in some way, hopefully. I hope I don't have to press anything.
Hi, sorry, I'm back. Thank you, Sophie. I next have the pleasure of introducing Kat. Kat Chong is a transcultural twister child negotiating an embodied rejection of fixity and belonging. They're a graduate of the Poetic Practice MA at Royal Holloway and currently doing a PhD on global female authored illness narratives at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. They're a proud queer crip and happy sacrificer of sleep for poetry, whose durational work wildly flails between conceptual and confessional tendencies. Their work has been published by Flint Books, Permeable Barrier, Ache Magazine, Bad Betty Press, Stride Online Magazine, and the Crested Tit Collective, and shown at the Theatre of Failure, the Small Press Book Fair with Royal Holloway Poetics Research Centre, and can be found in the National Poetry Library, the Book Art Bookshop, and Senate House Library. Their interests include ecology, feminism, gender, health, contemporary poetics, medical humanities, and disability studies. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you, Bri. Thank you. Hi. I'm currently in Singapore, so it's really nice to see everybody, just because that's where I'm studying at the moment. Like everybody else, I've been writing about COVID-19. I'm a disabled poet, and so that's been quite fun and interesting in very terrifying ways. I'm in the middle of writing a lyric essay on that at the moment, so I'm going to read you the lyric and spare you the essay. So let's see how this goes. This currently doesn't have a title because this is still very, very new. So please forgive me that I don't have a title for this yet. 200, entrechat only. Because I am a crip of the COVID century, language is not enough to facilitate survival. We need PPE, we need medication, we need social distancing, we need safety and a language that does not relegate the sick and the old as disposable. On day 117, on the 11th of May, Brock said for the second time, poetry is where language goes to renew itself. We enter and deform that turbulent field when we write it. To lack total energy is to let flying ants become turbulence. For weeks they enter at night, shedding wings and remnants of flight on my pillow, like an offering or an irony or some kind of a joke, dying all over the place, falling apart, having accomplished that momentous achievement of fucking. I lie on the floor in the dark, open curtains, politely asking them to leave, fly outside into light. I'm paraphrasing Amboya when I say so much time spent lying down is also time spent looking up. So much time spent lying down is also time spent looking at a ceiling crawling with ants, flying and falling, Once let out, they do not come back in, as though to be let out is to empty my space of the dying, a permanent gesture of escape. 188, tender confusion. Unending body in the distance of pause, I know I'm in pain. Rain, a sudden, hard falling, I long to go stand in. Maybe I've always been sentimental. Every crypt text is a hermetic text of multiple fusions, sometimes begetting elders living with survival of chronic conditions. In my dreams, the women I love are trying to kill me. In the attempt, pain contains an element of blankets. In looking for softness, torture transmutes into sleep. Every woman in my maternal family is chronically ill. Perhaps I should believe in destiny. Hydroxychloroquine is in 3 generations of my blood. My mother is the 3rd wave. I am waiting to become the 4th resurgence. I live in a body of ecstatic agony, and I'd like to keep it that way if it's all the same to you, without relationship to cure. This is my future, embodied waves of sleep and sickness, each gaze to look like longing, in this much pain, immutable and contained, in me, these 20 square meters of space. 184. I want to be held close and fucked till I forget what pain feels like. This is a lie. I don't believe in heteronormative restorative powers or the phallus bullshit, or in the suspension of reality amidst fuck. I'm body bounded by pain, ever present. Even if I could sleep with him, I would not hate myself any less. I'm 10,881 kilometers away from my partner. I'm being self-righteous so I can own my own sex again. The COVID-19 pandemic making metaphor double over, a Mobius striptease pandemic, death and fucking in a pile on the floor past the foot of the bed. In Writers That Love Too Much, Kevin Killian quotes Sarah Schulman saying that all writing today is age writing, whether as writers we know it or not. Because I am the crip of the COVID century, we are all writing plague, writing sex, writing death, synecdoches of synecdoches, all Fibonacci word fractals, a horror that keeps on going. To fuck as an act of reclamation, not land or spaces of ownership, as rage, as an energy, sorrow and grief, every part of me a wounding, an avenue for death. Anger and proximity to the multiple violences of war and medicine. I don't want to fuck my way out of complicity, even if I could, any more than fucking could be a form of penance, any more than I can fuck at all. My body is not a safe place, slippery with toxic sweat, poisonous residue, iridescent and glowing, all disappeared in containment, and the night has no more refuge. In When the Sick Rule the World, Jodie Bellamy says, mortality will be sexy. I'm sorry, I've been reading Kirk for weeks now. Sometimes I think I love everyone is taped to my wall. Wastrel bumblefuck should know what's wrong. When the sick rule the wastrel bumblefuck of mortality, I will know what's sexy with the world gone wrong. I think I'll fuck it anyway. 171. I never thought I would want as much as I do now. I want to measure the space between here and the sound of you laughing, to remember the worlds we're enmeshed in, if there is still a plural world for us in this. Surveillance is an archive forming around ourselves. Temperature, location, taste, smell, ease, breathing, inventory of numbers and numbered identities. Footage is both the recording of film and the size of a space measured in feet. The spots of water that trail down the corridor are dripped marks remembering where bodies used to come from. There are 6 occupied rooms along a corridor of 28. On day 200, the start of May, the manufacture of my medication changes, and my body knows this and reacts with a moratorium on sleep. I am an immutable entity surrounded by permeable barriers. I sit on my windowsill on the 10th floor to watch the sunset. The gloaming is the flattening, you said, of light and distance. I tell myself I'm not waiting for this surface to end, something that I'm gleaning to take from the great distance away from me, something made visible by light. Night is a liquid space, saleable or to sink into. Every time I touch the switch of the white strip lighting, a circuit breaker is an automatic device for stopping the electric flow of a current in a circuit, a safety feature for stopping the flow of transmission to prevent excess mortality in this island, city, state, waves, curves, sweeping. The metaphors for virality are circular and electric. 159. When I called my supervisor a weird-ass mushroom, I was talking about myself, about oblivion, slicing apples in a moment of grace and the possibility of rescue, useless esoterica. Proselytizing myself to pray in the language of mycelium, unreliant on sight or speech or sound, a mitochondrial network, a mass noun of this kindness, To signal this in language, I think about hyphens as a connection, the enoticon, the tie, serving to unite or unify, combining double breathe below, were so frequently tied to the language of the ground that perhaps we should write our way in, a burial, that we might find new ways of speaking without sight or speech or sound, of which these are the fruiting bodies. Perhaps it's because I'm unable to sleep at night that I'm being drawn to dark spaces, all this work a nocturne, my body, this moist place, reluctantly departed from sunlight. My body speaks in water, in silence, I lick my own tears. The soil is a place where it all comes together, and hope is a thing still breathing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kat. I'd now like to introduce Chloë. Chloë Proctor is a London-based poet. Her work is situated in response to contemporary poetic theory and is developed on Royal Holloway's Poetic Practice MA programme. She considers her practice to exist in the chthonic realm of involuting soil poetics. She is interested in interjections, clashing discourses, soil, fungus, and semantic messmaking. Her work has appeared in Azimuth, The Ecology of an Ear, Alterity, and Corbell Stone Press's contemporary poetry series, Nature and Language, as well as many self-published artist books. She is also a massage therapist at KEMA. Please welcome Chloë.
Hi, thank you, Briony. It's lovely to be here. Thanks to Winchester Fest for having all of us. I'm going to read something new and a little bit different today. This had a visual element which kind of situates it a bit better, but unfortunately it's not really a possibility at the moment. So I'm gonna do my best to make it work. But it's basically an extension of a long-term project that I've been working on called Spores. The idea behind Spores was that it was an experiment in poems as ecosystems and also in semantic leveling. So the idea being that I wanted to write poems that had an internal grammar system in which the language kind of negotiated its own systems of semantic relation. I'm really interested in the way that grammar imposes itself and creates forms of attachment, kind of like an ecosystem does. So I kind of took found text from botany journals and was doing a lot of work with found text, and eventually over the course of the project that became a Twitter bot called Spores Bot, which you can find at Spores Bot. So it's kind of taken on this life of its own, and it's this mix of very specific language from botany journals existing in this Twitter space, so that it's the way that those two worlds kind of interact with each other is really interesting to me. And the more and more horrific political, cultural, social events play out in real time, it seems, on Twitter, this thing is intercepting, and it begins to feel to me like not only does it have a life of its own, but it's also kind of creating these propositions, like almost like Fluxus propositions for like living on this planet right now. So I have been kind of just for today, I kind of picked a few out, and I'm going to read the bot developed tweets, as well as some definitions from the botany language, and then I've sort of filtered that through and translated these kind of Fluxus propositions out of them. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the tweets. Outward developing above Holocene optical microscope, still further more food security acropital could capsulate what of Eastern language both fodder. Acropital, growth of dissolvement of fluids to the apices, point of growth of root or shoot. Transcend and root, be organic film between Holocene and future, be a future. Beyond the divine, zoom in instead on terror. Feed the apices your thick grammar. Mycologist, as well as apophysis fodder, beyond I, biophysics axial, whereas radical like live cell imaging for foliolate. Mycology is the branch of biology concerned with the study of fungi. Apophysis, a swelling at the base of sporangium, a receptacle in which asexual spores are formed in some mosses, and foliolate, relating to or consisting of leaflets. Beyond I, proposition we, as swelling points from which disseminate radical like the mutable cell, be foliolate, be multi-pronged, multi-directional. Sustainability for Como's sociology, along with between self-pollinating econometrics and community, that micro-propagation rather than erosion. Comos meaning bearing a tuft of soft hairs as in comos seeds. Micropropagation, the propagation of plants by growing plantlets in tissue culture and then planting them out. First grow small in the culture, to then intercept space between an economy self-pollinating and society threading. Blister as hornworts community, nor as much parasitology, mineralogy soon, phyto in case fungi, she plants hormones. A hornwort, a submerged aquatic plant with narrow forked leaves that become translucent and horny as they age. Horny, I'm assuming their meaning of having horns, occurring worldwide. Phyto of a plant pertaining to plants. Blister as hornworts, horny community inflating. Feed from the host, the mineral stock unfairly hoarded. What grows from your body chemistry? Cortisol, let your body rage. Ethnography, whether acid, metabolism, polymaths, how basifixed horticulture, along with chlorophytes is pineapple eye organism. Basifixed meaning in botany attached at the base, and chlorophyta a division of lower plants that comprises green algae. Metabolism of knowledge overgrowing, ever-growing, overgrow acidic elite posturing. We basifixed on terror, we in undergrowth brambling, we plenty, we organism. And I'm just going to finish reading something that I wrote after the UK election in December. This is called Tunnel. Sweet things shattered in the echo chamber. Oh, you sweet things, keep on involuting. The pollen on your fingertips for bee orchids does dust upwards, figures the structures of we. Once the repeater machinery stutters, its parts lift symbiotic, make loud, make gestures, make filthy. There will be coral woven into your clothing. You will walk soil into the house and up the stairs. You can't help it. The fibers on which you step will stem and root you to the bed. You will be found to wave in the water. You will feed. With your spore-like eyelash flutter, your cells will interact. There will be no purity. There will be only mulch from which to stabilize. There is, abomination only of sweat and spit and genes for us to grasp as architecture. Let us build ourselves a city unkempt. Bring forth your echo poetics, weaponize your green bodies, let the grammar collide. It is in our best interests to find ways to be very tender while we swallow assault, while we violate the languages of compression. When the water breaks, we will already be silting. Let us be laced across the earth as matted fur, moss, and webbing. Get not things done, but things doing. We in our iridescence will be seen from up high as shimmers. The trappings of eco-intimacies will push out from the pores of us as sprawling lichens, us as digital clusters, us as pond scum, us as grass seed, us as nesting birds, us as honeycomb, us as palimpsests falling in love. Thank you. I'm going to pass you back to Briony. And you can find more of my poetry at chloeproctor.me.
Next, I'm going to introduce Tanicia. Tanicia Pratt is a Bahamian writer, artist, and poet based in London. She is interested in varying forms of poetics, i.e. film, sound, book arts, or concrete. Her writing is often a form of memory, archived or unearthed, to depict identities of the Caribbean landscape. Her work has been published by the Grace of Palette Poetry, PREE, POUI, Write About Now, the National Poetry Library, amongst others. She has performed at Antiquities, Monuments Museums, the Central Bank of the Bahamas Art Gallery, and the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. Tanicia received her BA in Marketing from the University of the Bahamas and is currently studying an MA in Poetic Practice at Royal Holloway University of London.
Hi, everyone. So just a quick disclaimer. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but I have like 8 minutes on my watch here. So if it's not distracting you, then it's distracting me, but that's all fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some fresh poems and also a bit of the Caribbean landscape in terms of narrative and Bahamas culture. So I'm going to start off my set with I'm going to bless my set with 9 verses inspired by the Bible and the Quran. And the poem is called Body Born, a Burnt Scripture. One, exalted are women divorced from head, roided hair uncovered, idolatrous feet stamped with authority. 2, silent churches forsake she, cover her in sorrow and shamefacedness. 3, man's works a sowing seed of arrogance, teach subjection. 4, every woman prays to speak with lawful desire. 5, so guard she who dishonors and makes clean fornication. 6, shall man rule over thee? She in charge of conception, cuts from his wealth. 7, husbands, fair your modest pearls as they strike off your right hand. 8, righteous women are transgression, their children expose the gold you conceal. 9, Adam was deceived, wombs, the image of God, menstruation, be thy glory. Now that that's out the way, let's head on to the freshness. I am going to read a poem that's actually inspired by an experience I had back in high school with me sitting in assembly. And basically I went to a 7-day Adventist school. And how that's set up in private school, we usually have like church assemblies and we would do the devotions and have the talk. So this is kind of a story about me sitting in assembly with my friends. Between. You could tell she ain't no virgin, whispers Drea about the prettiest 11th grader, how she sits in assembly, plum pleats draping her thighs. Oh, sorry. You could tell she ain't no virgin, whispers Drea about the prettiest 11th grader, how she sits in assembly, plum pleats draping between her thigh-high stockings. Drea scrunches up her face, closing the gap between her eyebrows, the way her mother does when she asks me, when last you been to church? And I fail to remember. I look over at the boys that never paid me no mind as they plot on who will be the next between her open thighs, warm and red in cheeks as I sit between the two sides, tucking the hem behind my crossed legs, wondering what's worth holding on to. And the last poem I'm going to read is called The Tao of Cooking Crabs. And this one is basically We like to eat crabs in the Bahamas. So it's basically about my love for eating crabs in the Bahamas and where it came from. So, Tao of cooking crabs. Sounds of the city change in June. The ease of tides, yelling women in the market, the ceaseless rattling of crustaceans clawing on metal cages. Traditional men and distant fathers look forward to this time the most. Sunday dinner becomes Father's Day dinner, with crab and rice never failing to make a debut on the plate for me. Father's Day was just another Sunday. Mommy would wake me to help with the ritual gutting, scraping of fat. And when you grow up a Bain woman, you learn the Tao of cooking crabs, feeding them grits or bread, naming them, bonding with them before pot and then plate. Born in Nassau, raised in Freeport, but an Andrus girl by blood, I can wipe clean the fat out of garlic crabs with boiled dough and soft hands, mincing it, eating the stuffing from their shells with crooked teeth to suck the biters and pluck the meat out from each buttered claw. They say that each year God blesses our shores with an army of crabs marching from Nicholstown to Cargill, a colony of its own, wielding flame machetes the slave masters could not control, but to the children of slaves, we knew what to do with them. Rolled up our pants and wrestled them with bare hands, made this a dance. Whether stuffed, duffed, boiled, or curried, we turned pests into a fest, a feast, a season of delicacy, and to be honest with you, I'm not surprised. I've witnessed us, lost Congo kids, making the most from what we had and found. Crabs, conch, fish, amongst other things we caught our own. We could never own our own boats, but thank gods the seas are colorblind and in abundance. So yes, I eat them crabs. Despite the naysayers and the noise in the market, with each bite, I feel my soul filling, brimming with incommunicable joy. I imagine my great-great-grandmother, rheumatic fingers at work by the stove, teaching her daughter how to season for her own survival. Mommy tell me say the black crabs are the sweetest, and I agree. Blacker things are always too sweet. I vividly remember those Sunday mornings, the mundane task of opening and cleaning things now conquered, fighting the wriggling pods as I scalp their shells with a butter knife blade. Mommy interrupts me in a mousy tone. This was all we had to eat, you know. Squeezing line between their toes, I asked her, so what the masters eat then? Nothing, she says. Nothing good. Thank you. For more poetry, you can follow me on taniciapratt.com. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, everybody. I'm now going to introduce myself, but I'm a bit too embarrassed to read out my bio. So I'm just going to say that I'm studying a PhD at Royal Holloway. And my debut pamphlet is going to be released with Broken Sleep Books this weekend, which is really exciting. Today, I'm going to read from a chapbook that I have coming out with Samson Lowe, and it's in collaboration with a really wonderful artist called Ellie Arden. I recommend checking out her work. It's essentially a meditation on the impact of an E. caniculi infection in my companion animal, Honey. And essentially the collection is a series of micro poems which explore the intimacies between a range of bodies, so animal, human, parasite, and water. 9 gulps until reflex prevents further inhalation, feeling that rack in your neck, gaseous or remaining, where your ear bubbles are tickle the uvula, this chest is half full. Lip slit vagues, head tilted concerns or spores on the brain slipped into her periphery, slightly off, balanced but not quite, they lap from the same body. Bathing in an early hour until 111 suggests re-entry, the womb, the gall, bladder, these cells lifted beyond our exteriors. Red lights, the tree spurs, not essential twitch that nose against plastic shapes, question these circles. Honey or lemon commitment, keep 13 minutes, discuss wasabi, discuss water, discuss bags as lower abdomen cools. Excess demands a urine pigment lopping. Onto her side, she can still reach those cicatrophs. The pituitary is triggered to withdraw conversation. Press head to minimize, kick, wrap in hand towel, turn to face, reach for gums, insert liquid over tongue, let her gulp as she hides beneath cabinets. An ideal humidity is exhibited between the toe, no line to draw saliva, drumming between these ears. Inbox, but lights are on. Distanced, I eat beetroot to match her. A pack of water to heat a body, regulation of these futures. Metacam is a painkiller for dogs. Willow is a natural source of aspirin. Information can be retained in crisis. Slow blink of the eye table, seated, stabilize yourself with an ear cannula and or blueberries. Euphanize towel, threads and pines, meat, digestive tract, she will never be bunged. Cups absent at walk-in, no matter the other side of the world is burning. Access supervision, await unification. The vet knows she's bonded. This comes as a pleasant surprise. Ear choreographed by heart beating, sit tight. You can hear each trickle. And the nose is still twitching. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of introducing Tese. Tese Uhomoibhi is a Nigerian-born third culture child performance poet and storyteller. She is currently a student of the MA Creative Writing Poetic Practice Programme at Royal Holloway, University of London, and is interested in exploring a poetics of implied storytelling through fragmentation and embedded lore. She uses archetypes of childhood such as fairy tales, African folk tales, and nursery rhymes to explore childhood trauma. When not turning your favourite childhood memories into works of horror, she does live streams on history, culture, and feminism on Periscope. She has performed her poetry at the Small Press Book Fair at London, That's What She Says London, and the Abuja Literary Society in Nigeria. She has also performed her work online on the Own Voices channel on Periscope and on her own personal Periscope platform at periscope.tv/theblacktck. Her work can be found at the National Poetry Library and everywhere online at the Black TCK and on her website. Welcome, Tese.
Thank you, Briony. So I want to share this, some pieces from a collection I was working on titled London is Falling. And it was done in response to the Grenfell Tower fire, and just like my reading on it. So so I'll be sharing some pieces from that. And in general, what I usually experiment with is I try to see how I can use nursery rhymes, folk tales, and other artifacts of childhood to be vehicles that you can use to explore trauma. So that's what I've kind of done. And I've interwoven these with the found text that I used and that I discovered when I was reading through the legal documentation for around the Grenfell Tower fire inquiry. So I'll be starting off with this poem. It's called Roses. Ring the crown, primarily responsible, around the roses, around the crown. Evidence, penetration, rapid loss. Pocket of posies, full of, pockets of, ashes, ashes, we all fall, smoke-logged, heavily smoke-logged. Ashes, ashes, we all fall. Columns rout fire. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. So the next poem that I will be sharing is called London Bridge. And it also uses the found text from the inquiry, the report. I kind of looked at the report and the summary. And I incorporated that into the whole idea of London Bridge, and just the idea that there's some interesting embedded lore around London Bridge and just bridges in general that were made in that time, and basically there's some lore that these bridges would involve, like, in order for there to be a success and for the bridges to be able to survive over a long time and for them to be strong, it would require some sacrifice and actual blood from the people who are working on it. So that I kind of incorporated that into this next piece called London Bridge. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. Consider the cause, origin, find, bears no blame, falling. London Bridge is falling. Consider less import, common appliance, disastrous circumstances. Falling is falling, cladding, hot smoke, impinging, causing deform, collapse. Bridge is falling. London is falling. Cavity, flames could pass, cladding, impinged, cladding, above. London is falling down. Fire, perfectly foreseeable. And now I will be sharing the last piece that I want to share tonight from the collection. This piece is titled Value Engineering. And value engineering is basically, it kind of highlights the systemic issues really that led to the Grenfell Tower fire, and just the systemic issues that exist within our world when it comes to marginalizing groups of people and not valuing their lives more than value money. So. Little star, compelling evidence, failed to comply, requirement. Little star, resist. How I wonder what you are spread above the world, so high, actively promoted, so high, necessary to examine, responsible design, diamond in the sky, essential requirement, how I wonder. Thank you. And I will hand it over back to Briony.
Hi, I'm now going to introduce our final poet of the evening, E.P. Jenkins. E.P. is a poet and artist from London and a founding member of the Crested Tit collective. She is currently on the MA Poetic Practice course at Royal Holloway. She works with concrete poetry, digital poetics, and collage. E.P. aims to create work within and generated by networks. Her bookworks can be found in the Wellcome Library, Senate House Library, and the National Poetry Library, as well as on her website. She is a big witchy weirdo inspired by folklore, medical history, and the desire to bring the feminine and the queer to ecological understanding. Welcome, Emma.
Hello. During Bry's reading, I had a really poorly timed asthma attack. So if I sound breathy, it's fine. I've got my pump. Take it as a compliment because you will take my breath away. Okay. So I'm going to I'm going to start with a poem called Jawbone. I wrote a little while ago. So premolar 308, 307, 305, canine 304, vulpes pulvis et chinin pulvis et chinin candid carnivora. Metrophagy, consumption of the mother by is a jawbone. Parasitic wasps eat their way out of their stepmothers. I'm sure that's not the same thing, but I'm sure that stepmothers would disagree. Wet snout snuffles at dry one. The dog is interested in what I'm doing because the dog is always interested in what I'm doing. Restless fox, agitated by rabbit in their teeth, 308, 307, longs for a toothpick. Just like the witch, they'll shovel down dirt, always causing trouble. I'll call you Kitsune of the Kentish Downs, Vulpes Invictus. An archaeologist's plastic nail, digging graves to set free the dead. Soiled Carcassan section, Methydridae, or bottle tops, that nestle next to dead teeth, jewels in a crown in a Coca-Cola. E150 premolar 308, E150B canine 304, jawbone jutting out of the dirt glacier in a sunken seabed. You only get to see about 30% or so, they say. Soon that'll be all that's left. Okay, cool. The next couple of poems are a thing I've been doing recently, where I've been collecting a corpus of folk tales and mythology from Britain and Europe, and I've been putting them into Markov chain generators. Why, I hear you all screaming? I don't know. Partly because if you've ever read these stories, especially like the Cinderella archetype, they're just full of icky misogyny, and I'm wondering whether we can process them through the digital world to try and either draw light to them or get rid of the misogyny. We'll see how it goes. But the first one is from the corpus of Kappa Rushes, which is a British folk tale. She slipped the love meat, the young mister drank it when he said they would be married. Why? I ask no more. Once of rushes you must go with a cloak. There her arms around him, and so finely dressed, he saw her fall into what was gone. Right and gay, he thought. Once a then and one dish away, she did not eat it, because she better not. Once a maid said you missed a little saucepan. But she knows that we do not tell, the Kappa Rushes said. So she says no. I asked before the dance, but told nobody. Beautifulest lady was frightened. She better not. Where did you go, Kappa Salt, once daughter? Ever after they say to the beautifulest lady, you must go. Go where the beautifulest ladies are frightened. I completely forgot to sort of say what a Markov chain generator is and what it does to the text. Google it. I've only got one more poem. They're in there. So this one is derived from the original Grimm Brothers Cinderella text. Wife this for us, home again. The rich man there said, become a bride. You don't know where she could. Wife this, but her hand said don't. The rich man there said, become a foreign princess. Now sit in on the hand that prays a hazel bush. The mother answered, oh no, blood. Cinderella, the blood was astonished. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand back over to Briony.
Thank you, Emma. I'd just like to say thank you for coming to our reading. Thank you to all of our lovely readers who have produced some really wonderful work for this event. And I'm always in awe of just everything that you write. And I'm so happy to be part of a collective group of all of you. Yeah, this is just, I'm getting emotional now. What am I meant to say? I meant to say, if you're interested in the open submission to our rewilding anthology, please send your submissions to rewildingpoetry@gmail.com. There's more information on our Twitter. Our Twitter is at CTC Poetry, and so is our Instagram. Have a lovely evening. Take care.